Hello, everyone, and welcome to Neurocracy. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Mary Carskadon, a trailblazer in sleep research whose research goes beyond the lab. It's changed the way that we talk about school start times, teenage health, and the role of sleep in our lives. At Brown, she leads the Sleep for Science lab, where her team is pushing the boundaries of how sleep is studied, not just in tightly controlled conditions, but in the messy, real world where people actually live. Whether it's tracking sleep with wearable tech, influencing national education policy, or mentoring the next generation of scientists, Dr. Carskadon has shaped the field of sleep. Thank you for joining me today, Dr. Carskadon.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm honored to be joining you.
So, my first question for you is that you've spent years studying adolescent biology. What's one major misconception that the public still has about how teen sleep works?
Well, I think a big one is that teens need less sleep.
Okay.
Uh, just because they are only getting less sleep doesn't mean they need less sleep. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Yeah. So you've done both lab-based studies and more naturalistic real-world monitoring. So what are some of the biggest challenges in studying teen sleep in their day-to-day environments, and what makes it worth that extra effort?
Well, man, if you set yourself up right to do the science, it's not that big a challenge. I mean, yeah, sometimes the the participants don't actually do what you'd like them to do. They don't follow instructions. And, you know, that happens. But we've had great success working with teens and having them, we'll put them on a schedule and we'll um, have monitors on them and they'll come back in, we'll download the monitors and they've done a great job with the schedule. So, and you think about that in contrast to parents who have trouble getting their teenagers to sleep when they want them to. I think that one of the secrets of our success is we pay them.
Oh, okay.
So money matters.
Yeah. So this is just more of a personal question, but do most of the teens come from the Rhode Island schools around the area?
Well, obviously, since we live in Rhode Island, that's where our sample is. Now, during COVID, we did a pretty big survey study where we tried to sample all over the country
Okay.
because we wanted to, because every school district everywhere was putting kids on a different kind of schedule and different, uh, some were fully remote, some didn't go remote at all, uh, and some were hybrid. So it was a fun thing, but yeah, it was a different kind of effort.
Okay. So if you had unlimited funding and no logistical constraints, what is one sleep study that you've always dreamed of doing?
I have to give that a little thought
Okay.
because,
Yeah.
uh, I mean, ultimately, a lot of what we've done is cross-sectional.
Okay.
I would love to have a large, diverse sample that we could follow longitudinally and, year after year, see what's happening and what's changing. I'd also like to be collecting more biological samples. So follow epigenetic changes, for example, or look at actual hormone values along the way, which we don't, we much of that requires invasive methods,
Right. Yeah.
and that we're sort of a little bit hands off with that.
Okay. So I was recently speaking with Dr. Helen Burgess about circadian rhythms and light exposure, and we were talking about the role of wearable devices in tracking sleep outside the lab. So I noticed that your lab uses wearables such as watches and temperature sensors, and I wanted to ask you, what do you see as the most exciting potential of wearable tech in improving sleep health, and where do you see it going?
Here's the thing, Sanjay. Um, the attempts to use wearables to improve sleep health have been a little sketchy
Okay.
as people they sense what they're doing, they feel what they're doing, and
Right.
And sometimes the wearables report things that are at odds with what an individual is doing. And sometimes for people who have problems sleeping, the information from the wearables just adds to a stress
Oh,
around their sleep. So that's a little bit of a challenge
okay.
for using them to improve sleep. That said, I think there are many people for whom that kind of information would be helpful. But it's still a kind of a fraught area, I guess.
Um, do you see light exposure as a potential avenue for sleep therapy or improving sleep outcomes in the future for especially night shift workers? Or yeah.
Not just for the future. I mean, I think
Okay.
that it's a current thing, night shift, jet lag, uh, those, there are interventions out there that people are using. Actually, another place, Sanjay, that light interventions have started to work their way into the sort of preventive medicine
Right.
is in pregnancy and postpartum.
Oh, okay.
So, as you probably know, there's a challenge. There's a challenge because having a baby around
Yeah.
challenges your sleep in general. But if people know the science and have these um, sort of buttresses to help them improve their sleep, like light, like, you
Yeah.
know, knowing sleep whenever you can when it's a newborn because
Yeah.
you can't really
Yeah.
schedule things as well as you might want
Yeah.
to. So that's actually something that's being shared in the field.
Okay. That's great to hear. So I wanted to ask about the sleep apprenticeship program at Brown, which gives undergrads the chance to take part in and even experience sleep studies firsthand. What do you think is the most important things that you hope students take away from working in such a hands-on environment?
Well, so it depends on this perspective.
Okay.
So I think for the students, they really bond with the group and have form lifelong connections, which I think is really on a personal, individual level is really good. But I also think in our lab, we are very cognizant and stress very much the importance of doing good science, and I teach both our participants and our students two most important things of good science are accuracy and honesty. So
Okay.
they learn that they need to track things very well. They need to be writing their log notes carefully and legibly.
Yeah.
And so they learn the importance of carefulness in doing science. And I think I've had students, several years after they'll send me an email, Dr. Carskadon, thank you so much. I learned so much. And,
Yeah.
and now I know the importance of these things and bring it to my own research. They may be graduate students or have their own lab by then. And they're still resonating to
Yeah.
the messages we taught them
Yeah.
out here.
That's nice. So your research has lots of implications for school start times, which are one of the big things that I like to talk about. What do you think needs to happen for science to finally catch up with policy on school start times and fill the gap between what we know and logistical constraints at schools?
Whoa. Well, there are several constituencies, I think,
Yeah.
that need to engage. So I'm doing science, and I've done the science that shows the circadian clock changes in adolescence, the homeostatic sleep pressure system changes during adolescence, both of which lead to, teens sleeping later
Yeah.
if there are no constraints on their schedules. Obviously, the school start time and the school day per se puts constraints on schedules. So policy has caught up by and large, except for people who don't understand or don't want to understand or have other political, uh, I don't know, constraints on their thinking and enacting uh, legitimate policy. but it's interesting. I've had the wonderful opportunity to speak in different countries around the world,
Yeah.
and I feel like much of my research has been done kind of under a dome, or in a very limited perspective. And for example, last year I had the opportunity to go to Abu Dhabi and Dubai.
Wow.
And it's very different there from here, as you
Right.
might
Yeah.
expect, including the climate. So why I was challenged at one point by a psychology professor, or maybe he was sociology, anyway, who said, well, Dr. Carskadon, this is all well and good, moving things later, but in a climate such as ours, that doesn't make sense because it's cool in the morning and it's cool in the evening. And if we push,
Yeah.
the school start time later, then
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a climate challenge.
Yeah.
And and that then ramifies to, air conditioning costs and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So, and I think about other countries that are more equatorial and where the climate and weather is even worse. So it's not just hot, it's humid, and I don't know. It's hard to make a universal recommendation that is reasonable globally. By the same token, people, school administrators, teachers, and so forth, and parents need to be thinking about the internal context of the young person, and somehow figure out a way to make it fit. Now, I don't know enough about all of these global settings to do that, but I think, there's a great opportunity there. Even in the United States
Yeah.
or North America, I remember I had the opportunity to give a talk in Manitoba
Wow.
once, and so here's one of my famous quotes around the lab is "Do science, see the world," which has worked for me.
That's good.
But in Manitoba, they're there. Well, but wait, it gets dark early and stays dark late because they have in the wintertime, they have a very narrow um, daylight. And so for them, it makes it that much harder to try and adjust. And you wonder if maybe in certain parts of the world we should be thinking more or as much in terms of seasonal changes to school schedules as well as just the overall changes.
Yeah. So speaking of changes, if you could make one change at Brown University to better align with circadian rhythms, what would that be? Whether that's schedules, lighting, dining hours, what's one thing you would change?
At the university?
Or anywhere on the campus, really, I think.
Oh,
I'd phrase that.
well, I mean, I think probably would be, so I know, I'm trying to remember, San Jose State University in
Okay.
California made a change in the exam schedules.
Oh,
I think was very, very smart and very clever. So
wow.
they no longer, they used to have exams would start at 7:30, I think, in the morning. So they changed the exam schedule to eliminate those very early exams.
Right.
I don't know that anyone collected any data. I would guess that made a big difference to
Yeah.
many students who, when they get up that early, it's just like, nah. Now, Brown, I think for most courses, the morning exams are at 9 a.m., which isn't too
Okay.
bad.
Yeah.
So we don't need to change that. And I don't think Brown may have a few days with 8 a.m. classes, but
Okay.
there's not anything really, any big universal
Okay.
that I can see here.
It's good. What's one big question in sleep or circadian science that you wish more younger researchers would take on?
Hmm. It's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
You know, a million years ago, well, not quite that old, but many, many years ago, as my work on my dissertation and the research that I was involved with then, we developed a test to measure sleepiness or sleep tendency, and it's called the multiple sleep
Okay.
latency test.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it gives a fundamental measure, and it's also used in helping to diagnose people with narcolepsy.
Yeah.
Now, our first paper, I think, was published in 1976.
Wow.
So, yeah. So we're talking,
Almost. Yeah.
half a
Yeah.
century ago,
Yeah.
and it's still being used for those purposes.
You know,
And so for me,
yeah.
somebody needs to figure out a better way to measure. I mean, it really is measuring brain state fundamentally to measure that and, move beyond, I mean, that test. So even though it's my baby or
Yeah.
grandchild or great grandchild, whatever,
Yeah.
um, you know, it it's half a century old. It needs to be improved on. And people have been thinking about it and trying to find other measures, but we're not there yet.
Yeah.
So for me, that's I think a pressing issue.
It's really funny that you mentioned that because this Wednesday I'm shadowing a sleep research center in St. Louis, and they actually mentioned that I'm going to be observing part of a multiple sleep latency test on Wednesday. So that's actually very interesting that it came
Cool.
up.
So
Yeah.
you see, they're still using
Yeah,
it.
yeah, they definitely are. Yeah,
When when
that's
I looked last time, I sort of track it by doing Google Scholar search
okay.
for MSL. What are the terms I use? MSLT and sleep
Yeah.
or something. And the number of citations keeps on
Yeah,
climbing.
yeah,
It's just it's nice.
yeah,
I feel honored to have been, part of developing that. But come
yeah.
on, let's move beyond it. So maybe that'll be your job, Sanjay.
Okay. Yeah,
You sort of want a breathalyzer or a, you know, I don't know, tongue strip or something. I don't know.
yeah. Well, on that note, I know we're running a little short on time, so I'd like to thank you once again for taking the time and joining me today. I think we had a really great conversation, and I think I learned a lot about your research and the future of circadian science, and maybe some of the things that I need to work on in the future.
Yeah. What year are you, Sanjay?
I'm a high school senior this year,
Where
so
are you going to be next year, dude?
no, I'm no idea.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So you're still in the
Yes.
application process?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you going to go west, east, stay
Um,
center?
I actually there's WashU in St. Louis, so that's
Yeah.
really good. And I worked with Dr. Herzog before, so if I do end up going to WashU, I could see myself working in his lab for sure. But
I have another former student who's there,
oh wow,
whose name is Russ Van Gelder.
okay,
And
yeah,
for a while, he was chair of ophthalmology. I
wow,
don't know what his position is now, which fits with circadian rhythms and light and so forth,
yeah,
right? Yeah, he's a very, 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 very smart young man.
that's
Anyway, the world is your oyster, Sanjay.
thank you. It means a lot coming from you.
Well, it's true.
Um,
Carry on our legacy.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
we set.
yeah. Thank you everyone for watching this interview. Be sure to like, review, and subscribe, and share it with someone else who's interested in sleep.
Okay.